murdered, political assassinated Baltimore City police officer, 18-year veteran Sean Suter. We, of course, express our empathy, our sympathy. We stand with you on truth regarding what happened to Officer Sean Suter, and we will ask that many of you pray, meditate every day at 12 noon, that the truth comes out regarding what happened to Officer Sean Suter, because if they could do it to one of the best of us in terms of him giving 18 years of his life to Baltimore City, then if they can do that to the best of us, what does that say to the rest of us? Black, brown, red, yellow, and white, but particular blacks inside of Baltimore City. And what does that say to black police officers inside of the Baltimore City Police Department? They can kill one of your own, and Officer Sean Suter. Prior to him, Officer William Torbett. Prior to him, Troy Chesley. Prior to him, Ken Harris. Prior to him, Robert Clay. Prior to him, Jonathan Luna, and others. So if they can do that to them, and this city don't burn, that police department don't burn, in terms of whether you're talking about a physical burn or whether you're talking about the fire and the desire and the will and the skill of the people to fight for justice, then what does that say about the black elected leadership in this city? Brown, red, yellow, and white, but particularly the black elected leadership. What does it say about black spiritual clergy in Baltimore City? What does it say about these black Muslims in Baltimore City? What does it say about black Moors, Hebrews, and others who say they really stand for what's right in the city of Baltimore? And you see this mother of 5 children. You see this wife of Sean Suter having to stand on her own. So we're going to talk about that press conference and play part of the press conference that was held today following the state police ruling without doing any extensive investigation of old information or any new information, without talking to the family of Sean Suter, without talking to the lawyers of the family of Sean Suter, attorney Jeremy Eldridge. Then they concluded that his death was a suicide, but they was basing it on what they got from the so-called IRB report, which was the Blue Ribbon report. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little about this Harriet Tubman movie tonight, because I had a chance to see it, right? So we're going to talk about that whole psyops, right? So we're going to get into that. And if time permits, we'll bring it home, talk about some of these local stories here in Baltimore in terms of articles that were in the paper today talking about Maryland incarceration rate, how blacks lead, even though we're less than 30% of the population in the state of Maryland, but we're filling up the prisons. While they got you talking about foolishness and trivial things such as some damn Popeye's chicken, right? Your black men in jail, your black women in jail, your black children in jail, and they got you reduced to talking about 2-hour radio, 4-hour radio shows talking about a damn chicken sandwich, man. So where are your priorities? The joke is on you when they reduce you to want to talk about that, and you spend your time calling in to have a conversation about that. But let me start off by thanking all of you that are tuned in. Got to thank, of course, the owners at Radio on Fire. Of course, my brother D. Williams, and his capable and able, I can't even call her new assistant, but the sister that's not new to it, but she been true to it, Sister Nikki, making sure that we come each and every Wednesday on these airwaves at 7 o'clock, and we can't get on at 7, we on 7:30, can't get on 7:30, we're on at 8 o'clock, but we coming on these airwaves to share information with you. So I got to thank Sister Nikki, thank Brother D. Williams, and so I ask you to support Radio on Fire. Send in your donations, not your donations, because that's what I get, your donations. Send in some donations. $ Radio on Fire, all one word. Of course, to support the state of the city, my Cash App $ is $SOTC Muhammad, MUHAMMAD. For those of you that know you have not sent in your donations, in the words of Bone Thugs and Harmony, is the first of the month. So please send in your donations to support the state of the city, all right? With that, phone number when we open up the lines is 404-436-1277. So with that, I want to get right into the show and the flow. And as I said before, you got to forgive my voice. I have a little slight head cold, but as the old folks say, we don't name it, we just claim it, and we shame it, say we're just going through a healing right now, all right? So with that, I want to thank all of you that have us locked in, and we got a lot we're going to cover tonight. But today, there was the report that was released from the state police. Now, last I checked, the state police cannot supersede the state medical examiner, which ruled the death of Officer Sean Suter as we are approaching now his 2nd year anniversary of his death, shot and killed down in that Poppleton community. Of course, the day before he was going to testify in a case involving corrupt elements in the Baltimore City Police Department. And it's interesting that this movie just came out recently called Black and Blue, which kind of deals with those kind of things that go on in police departments, right? But inside the Baltimore City Police Department, this 18-year veteran, Officer Sean Suter, was shot and killed, and they locked down that community. And we were told they were looking for a black man with a black coat on with white stripes. It took what is 5 minutes away from University of Maryland shock trauma, a 20 or 40 minute ride to get him from that community. One thing they tell you when somebody's shot, don't move him. The man who went out with him on that day was not his regular partner. I've been talking about this, probably myself, Brother David Johnson, Brother David Anthony Wiggins, Brother Donald Smith, and a few others. But be clear, Brother Muhammad's been talking about this more than anyone else on these airwaves and on WFBR. And if I was lying, don't you think the lawyers for the Baltimore City Police Department would have called the station and said, have him cease and desist talking about that? Don't you think if I was lying, those elements in the FOP would have called in on my show? Don't you think if I was lying, TJ Smith, the Farnsworth Bentley of the Baltimore City Police Department, they cleaned that trifling ass nigga up and got him to come before the cameras and lie and say Sean Suter committed suicide along with that old schmuck Kevin Davis, that white dog doo-doo, that white trash that they try to offer us up as somebody professional? Don't you think if I was lying, the black police officers like Clyde Boatwright, Lou Hobson, and others would say Brother Muhammad lying? They couldn't wait to call in like they call in on KY's Whitehead show, like they call on David Brown's show, like they call in on C4 show. And these are people in the past would come to me and give me information. They couldn't wait to give me information. Clyde Boatwright, Sergeant Lou Hobson, former FBI agent Dr. Tyrone Powers. I mean, they would run to me to give me information because they wouldn't say it. So you know who they would come to? So because they know I didn't have no fear. Now they carried guns and was afraid, but they would come to me and bring the information to me. So I'm putting them on blast tonight. I'm putting them on notice tonight. Your cowardliness is going to be called now. Okay? So they would run to me and give me the information. But now you can't find them. They've left me out here on my own. Some of them same ones that I was standing for and speaking up for when their turn came. But that's what they'll do, see? Then they got nerve to say that they brothers. To who? To who? Okay? So now this officer goes out on that particular morning. A white officer by the name of David Bominka, who was not his regular partner. His regular partner was Jonathan Jones. Jonathan Jones, they just had the big city poly game last week. I'm sure Jonathan Jones was out there styling and profiling, throwing up his signs and symbols, city college. Ooh, you know how they do it. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? But Jonathan Jones got to be some kind of goddamn coward, man, that his partner can be killed. His partner is scarred because he had the scar on his face. But Jonathan Jones can't be found. That whole homicide unit that Sergeant Suter served with are silent. You've yet to see them standing behind his wife in one press conference and one interview, man, at all. So you shouldn't check them for guns and badges. Check them trifling, cowardly ass niggas for some thongs, man. For that one black woman got more courage than they do, man. You don't see them standing behind that black woman. But yet they'll get on and talk about they having go jump into Chesapeake Bay for a little old white woman that got killed in Baltimore County by the name of Amy Caprio. They'll go have a walkathon, a jogathon, a bikeathon, jumping, polar bear plunge for Amy Caprio. I was told charity begins at home. Amy Caprio got killed in Baltimore County by some young boys that ran her over, or one young boy, right, with his Jeep out of fear. But Sean Suter was killed. He goes out that morning. He didn't go out. He was supposed to be off duty. Now the question is, who called Sean Suter on duty if he was off duty? Davis haven't answered that question. TJ Smith hasn't answered that question. Harrison, the new commissioner, hasn't answered that question. Your cowardly mayor, who was city council president, Jack Young, haven't answered that question. Brandon Scott, who's over the public safety committee, hasn't answered that question. Lou Hobson haven't answered that question. Dr. Tyrone Powers haven't answered that question. If Sean Suter was off, nigga, who put him on duty? Who was the commanding officer on that day? Was it Dean Palmieri? Was it D'Souza? Who called him in on duty? He lived in Pennsylvania. They've yet to answer that question. If the man was going to testify in the case the next day, you surely wasn't going to have him working because he had to go meet with his lawyers. make sure everything was locked solid before he go to testify. And the FBI and the Department of Justice have said that Sean Suiter was not a suspect. That Sean Suiter was, in fact, a witness, not a suspect in the case. So it shows you where the white media or the fake news media in Baltimore City has helped to cover this up as well. So nobody said David Bominka, a white boy, and we can find that picture. I think it's on my page, the story, the Daily Mail. I think they got a picture of David Bominka. We can put his picture up there, right? But David Bominka, who was not his partner, went out that morning down into that Poppleton community. Then that afternoon, he comes back with Sean Suiter. So the question has to be asked, if Suiter is not David Bominka's regular partner, where was David Bominka's regular partner? And why was he given and assigned to Sean Suiter? See, that was the setup. So if Bominka was there that morning, he had time to go down there, stage the crime scene, knowing they were going to bring Sean Suiter back and either lead Sean Suiter to the shooter or the shooter to Officer Sean Suiter. Now, Columbo could solve this, man. Kojak could solve this. Ironside could solve this crime. Then Bominka goes out, but he leaves supposedly his department issued radio. He doesn't take a radio. Why? Because he don't want any transmission to come across that radio. But Sean Suiter has his radio. So the call after Suiter's shot supposedly is not made on Sean Suiter's radio. It's made on David Bominka's phone. Well, if the phone is evidence, how come the police didn't confiscate David Bominka's phone? That's the question you got to ask. How come nobody said turn that phone in? That's evidence. And did he have one phone or two phones? And if he had two phones, one had to be his phone and one had to be a burner, as they say. Now, if I can connect some dots and use some deductive reasoning, don't tell me that the white media in this town, Jane Miller and the I-Team reporters and others couldn't ask that damn question of Davis. How come y'all didn't confiscate Sean Suiter, partner that y'all sent out there with him, David Bominka's phone that day? And all you do is trace the phone records. Then you go a little further as we've looked at David Bominka, since there's been so much talk about corruption in the police department and police officers basically making all this money off of overtime. And you look at Sean, one of the persons who was listed was David Bominka. His base salary was $60,000 or $65,000. All this is in the reports, man, that have been coming out. But most of y'all, you just get emotional. You don't do no research. You don't do no reading. Leaders are readers. When you got some dum-dums on radio like Larry Young that can't read, he can't lead you, man. And some of these other dummies that be running around here that don't do no reading, they can't lead you. And I ain't got no notes in front of me. All this is coming straight from what I've read and researched on my own. So now, all he had to do was get David Bominka. All he had to do was first test David Bominka for gunshot residue. Then you give him a polygraph test. Then you grab his phone records. The first 24, 48 hours are the most important. But the Baltimore City Police Department covered up the crime from day one. From the moment that it happened. And then they were looking for an angle to try to tell the public it was a suicide. So the question is, who is David Bominka really tied to that this white boy is so powerful in terms of the forces that back him or the forces that paid him? Because all you got to do now is seize his bank account. Find out if any money was deposited after Suiter was killed in terms of that first week, that next week, or that entire month. The same way they grabbed those two officers that was tied to the gun trace task force, they went and looked at their bank accounts. So that's how you follow the money trail, man, when Suiter's killed. But yet you don't hear the state police, the so-called IRB, what they call that, a blue ribbon report, man. Black people don't even eat blue ribbon bread no more. So take that ribbon report and shove it up your ass, man. It wasn't worth the paper it was printed on. And most of the people that wrote it was former police officers. So that was all part of the cover up right there. But if I can do just a little deductive reasoning and say, where's those officers that was on the homicide unit with Sean Suiter? Why are they silent, man? Right? Were we able to find that picture of David Bominka? Make sure we put that up there. I want them to be able to see Bominka. Is that him with that ugly white suit on? Looking like old ugly Don Johnson reject John Wanamaker suit from Miami Rice instead of Miami Vice. Was that the picture they got up there? Him standing with Davis? So that's the picture right there. For those who want to know, David Bominka standing right there with Davis. And the other guy, I think to the right, is the other guy that was at the scene of the crime when Sean Suiter was killed. The one in the green shirt, I believe, is Rodriguez. So we know those were the two that was there. Now, the first thing first thing when somebody shot, they tell you don't move him. Why did Rodriguez move him? Why did Bo Minka move him, man? If they wasn't hastening his death, that's the only reason why they would move him. Okay? Let's be clear about that. All right? And we played on this show with Brother David Johnson, Brother David Anthony Wiggins, Brother Donald Smith, and on Brother David Johnson's show. We played the 911 calls, man. And you heard the 911 calls say there was an officer off duty. Now, if I find it, I'll play it tonight. Off-duty officer. This is what was given by Bo Minka, the description of a so-called suspect. So this is why you bring Bo Minka in, you charge him, you put him under oath. See, but the state's attorney knows this information. Be clear about that, man. The state, Marilyn Mosby, knows what I'm saying. But yet, you don't hear her talking about that. Because, of course, then they might kill Marilyn Mosby. This whole thing got to come out, man. It's like a scab that's there, but it's deeper than a scab. All that pus got to come out, man. Somebody got to have the will and be willing and able to pull it to make it come up, man. That's the only way you're going to bring them out. Because the streets been talking for a long time. Then you have some say, well, Sean Suiter was dirty. Well, when you go back to that 2010 case, they say there was a chase. And the chase in the article was in the Daily Mail. I reposted it. The article was from the Daily Mail, December 12, 2017. No notes. I already know what I'm talking about, okay? 2017, I posted it on my page again tonight. When you scroll down and read the article, they talk about a chase that took place up in the Gwynn Oak community. And the chase involved two men, Umar Burley and Brent Matthews. The officers that were chasing them was Wayne Jenkins, Ryan Guillen. Wayne Jenkins is in jail as we speak, right? Ryan Guillen is still working in the police academy. So Guillen's still on the force, man. Now, as I said before, when I checked Dr. Tyrone Powers' Facebook, Ryan Guillen is friends with Powers. He's friends on Facebook with Lou Hobson. He's friends on Facebook with Clyde Boatwright and other police officers. Now, I know this and they know this. But the first thing they'll say, I got a lot of friends on Facebook. They don't know Ryan Guillen. They start carrying out plausible, what they call that? Plausible deniability or whatever, right? They playing stupid now all of a sudden, right? They probably go out and have drinks with his ass. But when I started putting them on the spot, they don't know Ryan Guillen. Yeah, nigga, please, right? Let me keep going here, all right? So if I'm stepping on your feet, move them out the way. That's all I say. Move them out the way. That's all you got to do, okay? So now they said the car chase was with Jenkins and Guillen. They're chasing Umar Burley and Brent Matthews. Umar Burley, Brent Matthews crashes into another car that's driven by 86-year-old Mr. Eberly Davis and his wife, Mrs. Davis. The accident led to the death of Mr. Eberly Davis, and his wife was hospitalized. Mr. Eberly Davis happened to be a father of another Baltimore City police officer. You say, this is Baltimore. What's the chances of something like that happening, right? In the article, they said after the crash that Ryan Guillen and Jenkins got on the phone and called another officer and said, call a Sarge, and had a Sarge bring the stuff to the location. Well, the sergeant who they called, and has come out, and which I was the one telling people over the last 2 years. The sergeant was Keith Gladstone, a Jewish police officer. Now, Gladstone, who had just copped a plea to planting guns at the scene of crimes. And if they were planting guns, you know they were planting drugs, okay? So Gladstone brought the drugs and planted them in the car of Umar Burley and Brent Matthews. Then they call Officer Sean Suiter. Sean Suiter comes on the scene and checks the car, right? And the drugs are in the car. All of this is what the FBI said, not Brother Muhammad said it, right? Then Umar Burley and Brent Matthews are locked up. They're in jail. They got released within the past 2 years. One of the judges, Judge Bennett, apologized to them. They filed a lawsuit since then. I think it's $25 million or $40 million. And named in the lawsuit is Baltimore City Mayor, Baltimore City Police Department. They named Ryan Guillen. They named Wayne Jenkins, right? Initially, they had in there Sean Suiter. Then they pulled that one back. Then they put in a new lawsuit. Who's in the lawsuit? Ryan Ginn, Wayne Jenkins, Keith Gladstone. If you don't believe me, just go to Jane Miller. She talked about it. Now, if I know about David Bominka, don't tell me Jane Miller, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox 45 don't know about David Bominka. And the way Jane Miller like to run down on people and run into their homes, knock on their door. I'm Jane Miller, I-Team investigative report. You see she ain't run up on David Bominka? So who does this white boy look like some poor white trash, right? From Dundalk, hun, or Hamden, hun. Who does he know? Who is he tied to that Jane Miller won't run up on him? Or any of these reporters, man. Keith Sykes or Snipes or whatever over there. Or Keith Daniels over there at Fox 45. He don't run up on him, man. Or Mike Helgam at Channel 2, right? They won't do it. But if you give me one brother with a camera, I'll have a microphone and we'll run up on Bominka and run up on the rest of them. And that's what they don't expect, right? It's somebody to come to them. They so used to having you under the spotlight. They don't want to be under the spotlight. You put pressure on them, pressure will break some pipes in the city, man. For real. Okay? But we're gonna go to this press conference and share part of the press conference that was done today. Because the state police came out with their pardon my language, their bullspit report talking about it was a suicide. But they didn't talk to the state's attorney. They didn't talk to the attorney of Officer Suter. They didn't talk to his wife, to his daughter, to his children. No one. So this was a political cover-up from day one. But the state police cannot overrule the medical examiner who ruled that Sean Suter's death was in fact a homicide. Not a suicide, a homicide. I don't give a damn what some retired police officers try to tell you. Clearly, it was a homicide. Anytime any of them want to debate me, time, place, and space, you let me know. But as I warned you and said before and often quoted our great scholar, John Henry Clark, who said, we only debate our equals. All of us we going to teach. So sit your ass down so you can learn something. But by the time I finish with you, you're going to be burning something at the same time, okay? We're going to go to part of this press conference, and I think his attorney, Jeremy Eldridge, who said this means war. So that's why I keep saying we need a real war room in this city, man. A war room.
Everybody, my name is Jen.
So we're going to go to this clip. We'll play part of this so you can hear that, because many of you probably haven't heard it, and all this have taken place within the last 4 hours in Baltimore City, for those that are in the city and around the region and around the country. So we got that clip, my brother.
The first thing that the public needs to know, as this is not news.
We pop it up on this end?
Absolutely nothing new.
Can't get on the screen so they can hear it.
Okay, that was done by the state police was done with a very tight set of parameters. There were no new witnesses interviewed. There was no testing of any physical evidence. They did not speak with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. They did not converse with the Office of the State's Attorney for Baltimore City, who's been handling the investigation. They did not speak with me, his attorney. They didn't speak with Nicole Suter, his wife, Demira, his daughter, or any of his other children. This was rubber stamping the already flawed IRB report. This is not new. We are ready for war. We met with Commissioner Harrison personally in his office with his command staff. We were promised a very specific agenda. We were promised an investigation with clean hands. That is not what we received. That is not what Baltimore City deserves, and that is not what Sean's legacy merits. We deserved more. We deserve the truth. And the truth is that at this moment, the investigation is still pending. The Baltimore City Police were still investigating. There were witnesses being interviewed. There were items being tested. And none of this information, not an ounce, was ever conveyed to the state police. The Baltimore City Police Department wrapped up that bag of trash and they dropped it off, doing nothing for almost 2 years at the steps of the state police. And this is what we got. We got another, and the citizens of Baltimore City deserve more. And if this is even an ounce of what we're getting with our police investigations, this better be a time for change. justice
Okay.
that has been cast upon family without any empathy or sympathy for what we have coming next week, which is his 2-year anniversary.
16th.
Of his murder.
We got it up. We'll link up. Okay. We'll link up. They can watch it in its entirety.
We're just upset because we used the same report that was done by the IRB or the paid hitman. There was no new reset with the commissioner personally, and I asked them to do, to put a fresh set of eyes on my father.
I'll charge him with fraud.
And he basically told me, because you gave us a phone call and you told us that you would be doing this, I think we deserve more than a phone call when it comes. There isn't really enough support and evidence. You didn't interview myself, my mom, my brothers, or my sister in the IRB, and you ran with it. So we're upset. We're firearm.
We have all come to learn that there was.
That's right.
So if the state police never took the onus to go meet with the DNA analyst and find out what that DNA part of a story that came out last November.
That's right.
Witnesses that were involved in the. We were lied to.
That's right.
And if you're a victim in Baltimore City of any crime, I'd be worried about your crime getting solved if this is the level of work you're getting. Sean worked in homicide.
That's right.
Sean was one of these men. And if this is the level of accountability and work that they give to one of their own, what do you think you'll get?
It's nothing. That's right.
That's the God's honest truth. If you have any questions, concerns, this will be the time to voice them.
Do you expect the medical examiner's determination to change?
No. The medical examiner met with members of the Office of the State's Attorney for Baltimore City.
That's right.
Met with
medical examiner ain't changing his.
And decided not to change it. There is no new math to change the calculus of the medical examiner's decision. And I believe strongly that the medical examiner will stay strong, stand by the decision that this in fact was a homicide and it was a murder.
Right. So the police looking over his shoulder couldn't convince him that it was a suicide. You know damn well they ain't gonna try to come back 2 years later to say it was a suicide. That remind me, you ever see the movie? What was the movie with Denzel Washington and Angelina Jolie? What was that movie called? The Bone Collectors? Bone. And Denzel was telling her about 3 things at a crime scene. He said, I forgot to tell you about the other 3rd thing, the last thing. And she said, what's that? He said, another cop, right? Say, ain't nobody gonna dirty up a crime scene like another cop. That's it. So David Bomenka, Rodriguez, and we're gonna eventually get a copy of that IRB report and just share the information. But again, you heard the press conference from attorney, and I'm gonna reach out to him, Jeremy Eldridge, see if I can get him on the show this week, and if we can get Miss Suter on the show. Now, that's the sad part, again, that you would have those that try to do what we say the Baltimore City Police Department does with these political assassinations. They try to engage in the 3 Ds of denying, destroying, and discrediting the person. This time, it's one of their own. And that's shameful. So, again, they haven't questioned David Bomenka. He didn't get a paraffin or a gun residue. Didn't test him for his DNA, right? Rodriguez, who was there. And then you got to ask, of course, where was Keith Gladstone? Since we know Gladstone was known for showing up in places and spaces where he wasn't supposed to be. Where was Dean Palmieri on that day? Or was it Dean Palmieri who they've allowed to retire right off in the sunset, right? Dean Palmieri is represented by attorney Martin Cadigan. Martin Cadigan is the treasurer for Martin O'Malley. Let's go down the rabbit hole. He's Martin O'Malley's treasurer. He's state's attorney Marilyn Mosby's treasurer. He's also the treasurer for Jack Young, your mayor of Baltimore City. So that clearly is a conflict of interest. How could Martin Cadigan, who's the attorney for Dean Palmieri, who helped to cover up for a lot of the gun trace task force members as a commander. Now, Lou Hobson knows this. Tyrone Powers knows this. Clyde Boatwright knows this. The FOP know what I'm talking about. But they'll never say what Brother Muhammad is saying. They won't mention Dean Palmieri's name. They won't mention Martin Cadigan's name. And they damn sure ain't connecting the dots to Martin O'Malley, right? To Marilyn Mosby, to Jack Young. If you don't believe me, get that Baltimore Brew article talking about Jack Young hires Martin O'Malley's treasurer. I was the one that was sent the article to Coach Butch McAdams while he was on the air. And then he read the information when I told him that Jack Young hired or was given Martin O'Malley's bag man. And usually that's how you pull the string when you ready to bring him down like they did in the movie. What was that, Al Capone movie, right? When they wanted to get Capone, right? They grabbed the treasurer. They grabbed the accountant, right? Untouchables, right? That's all you got to do. Grab the treasurer. That's all. You follow the money. Hey, man, y'all can you the state of the city? I will have you through God's grace, right? Through Yahweh's grace. You had these chumps wrapped around your finger, man. All right? They be wrapped around your finger. And they be wanting to know, where'd you get that information? So how can Jack Young, knowing Martin Cadigan represent the gun trace task force members, hire him as his treasurer unless Jack is a part of the corruption as well? How could Marilyn Mosby hire him or be given him as her treasurer unless she's a part of the corruption as well? All right? So you tune to the state of the city, but we're going to look at planning a demonstration. I ain't planning no demonstration. When they got these brothers going out here, Andre Bunley and them with this Jack Young's, what they call that group? The 3 African-American male commission that Bunley's over, $100,000 he get paid a year, man. Then they got brothers going out on Monday nights talking about they walking the streets, they hugging brothers. Hey, look, man, I'm not walking those streets with y'all when y'all don't take no real stands. That's just photo opping, man. That's just to get the next grant that Jack Young gonna cut y'all coming up, man. And that's why I've always said that the only thing more dangerous than the gun trade task force is these grant chase task force members around here, man. That's running around here talking about they hugging brothers up Park Heights. That's the next area for the opportunity zones is Park Heights. So I'm not stepping out there with Bunley, all these other brothers. They say Torrey Smith was out there with him the other night. Hey, man, be clear. I'm not worrying about where you stand or where you sit or who you with, but where you stand in a time of comfort or discomfort for the masses of our people. That's what I want to know. Other than that, I ain't standing with you because I know all you doing is photo opping, man. That's all you doing, collecting data on them brothers to show to Jack Young that you doing something when you really not doing nothing because you ain't getting them brothers no jobs. You ain't helping them brothers when you look at the day's paper and they talk about Baltimore City, state of Maryland, blacks got a higher incarceration rate than anybody else. You ain't doing nothing for them. So y'all trying to run this charade and get paid off our people pain, man. That's the bottom line. When you giving brothers job applications and all. Come on, man, stop the games. Please, just come clean and tell the people what y'all really doing up there in Park Heights with these men, men-to-men walks and all that, man. That's all I'm saying. If it don't apply, let it fly. But you know who you are. You just running charades trying to get paid off the people, man. That's the bottom line. Them Jews great come through Park Heights and build Park Heights up for them. Okay? Sinai, Life Bridge, they coming for them. The Jesuits, they coming for them. They going to build a new Catholic school on Martin Luther King. Okay? Y'all ain't stand up with Carl Stokes when they shut down their all-boys school last year. You wasn't with him. I was with him. You wasn't with him. Be clear about that. You wasn't standing up for the Buford Jameson or the other academy that he had over there, the Banneker Blake. You wasn't standing with Carl Stokes and them little black boys, man. So don't tell me you care about grown-ass black men when you wouldn't stand for little black boys over in East Baltimore, Dr. Bunley and the rest of them. Y'all know what I'm saying? Some of you Muslims, y'all wasn't there. You didn't come over there because Jack ain't give y'all permission to go over there. The mayor, Kathy Pugh, ain't give y'all permission to go over there and stand with Carl Stokes, Edwin Johnson, and them little black boys over there, man. So it reminds me of what the little boy said in South Africa to his mother when she was telling him, don't go. And the little boy said, had you gone, I wouldn't have to go. So that's the problem with most of y'all. You don't stand up for real issues. You stand for them weak issues. You stand for them little soft issues, man. But you don't stand for no real issues in the city. I've watched your behavior. You let others stand, take the hit, and then you come in and try to benefit. But ain't gonna be no more Malcolms taking no bullet for you. Ain't gonna be no more Kings taking no rocks upside the head for your ass. Either you gonna stand or you gonna fall. But I'm gonna expose your hypocrisy when I see it. So the question is, where these men? Tell me they 300. Where the black elected officials, man? Standing for Sean Suter's family. Can't find them. Where these Vanguard Justice Society? That's the black police officers. Can't find them. Where the 300 men? Where the black male commission that Bunley and the brothers, I've seen y'all walking. Hey, man, I grew up in the Nation of Islam. Where them brothers was walking with Bunley telling people come take these walk on Monday nights, man? Where them black Christian ministers telling people come take a walk with us, man. Right? All these groups running around saying we had a good night. We met over there at Shiloh Church. Hey, man, ain't nobody meeting at Shiloh but a bunch of sodomites over there. Ain't nobody meeting over there at Larry Young and them church, man. Bunch of sodomites over there. Bunch of diaper swipers as the young folk call. They call them in prison, man. Scheming demons, sneaking deacons, selling dwellers. Ain't nobody running with them. You out of your mind. Think somebody gonna follow you and a bunch of goddamn broke backs talking about that's gonna help our people. Where? Where? So again, you tune to the state of the city. Where's ceasefire? Black police officer get killed. Can't find ceasefire condemning that, can you? But yet, let somebody else get killed. They gonna come. I wish I had some incense. They come around, want to burn some sage. You know what I mean? That ain't bringing no goddamn body back, man. I mean, you know how coonery you look running around here, painting your face, right? Like you really gonna bring some voodoo? You disgrace African traditions with that, man. And you doing it because them Jews giving you money to go out there and then give her a new car. I know activists been in this town for years, ain't got no car from Jack Antwerpen, man. Where you get, man? You get a new car for being an activist for 3 years in Baltimore City. But they gave that to the little girl, Erica Bridgeford. Give her a vote. She got her a Volkswagen from Jack Antwerpen, man. Courtesy of Kathy Pugh. Ain't that a shame? But yet a police officer get killed. Have y'all heard ceasefire? You see ceasefire stand with that black woman? You see ceasefire stand with Nicole Suter? Hell no, man. Told you, calling all that hypocrisy tonight. You ain't saying ceasefire, ain't gonna stand up because they not gonna go and bite the hand that feeds them. Otherwise, the police department will tell the Baltimore Community Mediation, cut them checks off. All right, cut them checks off, and you'll see how soon ceasefire will cease to exist. Okay, they'll go and get them a new HNIC, a new head nigger or nigress in charge is what they'll do. Okay. And if you don't like it, let's talk about it. But you know I got the facts on you and the acts on you. I see you as you really are, okay? They done got them some ceasefire hoodies now. You know what I mean? Got there thought they was a grassroots organization. Yeah, right. They got them ceasefire brochures, ceasefire hoodies. What's next, man? Ceasefire pop-up mobiles, man. What's next? Why are people still dying in this city? So again, you tune to the state of the city. Where's the NAACP on this, man? And the black elected officials. So again, they betrayed the Suter family. And if they'll do that to the Suter family, what does that do? What does that say to the average black man or woman out here in the city of Baltimore? They let the police kill one of their own. And the only animal in the animal kingdom that eats their own are pigs, okay? The notorious PIGs, okay? That's the only one that will eat their own. So we'll stay on top of this, as I said before. But I want to move quickly, man, before I go to top of this Harriet Tubman movie. Saw this article talking about Kweisi Mfume. And you know I know him as Kweisi, you don't fool me, man. After Elijah Cummings either died, was killed, got a bacterial infection because he had long battle with syphilis, okay? All right? And when he had that knee surgery or that knee procedure, it either... what's the word I'm looking for? Exacerbated that syphilis infection to the point that he died, right? Okay? It was entitled, I think it's called Palladium Tinium, which is nothing but syphilis, okay? All right? If you don't believe me, go to Conservative Treehouse. I think that the author wrote about it, the reporter wrote about it, and if they was lying, the family surely would sue them, okay? Family would clearly sue them, but if you notice, no doctor has told you what he really died from. Nobody told you they was dead when he took his last breath. Nobody told you his last 7 words of Elijah Cummings, man. You ain't heard one doctor, one nurse. You know, usually you find a custodian, a janitor, somebody that saw him, somebody that had to mop the floor, man, in the room while he was in there. You ain't heard nobody say I was in there. I mean, his preacher, Bishop Walter Thomas, right? He said he was there. He visited him while he was in the hospital. He was with him. He blessed him. He baptized him before he went to the other side. You know, because niggas want to get right with God before they go home. You know, that's what they say, right? They want to get right with God. You know, you ain't heard nobody say I was with him when he took his last breath. You ain't even heard that wife. I think she the third wife, right? Maya Rockamore Cummings say she was with him when he died. Notice she ain't said these are his last words. At least with Dick Gregory, right? When he died or was killed, at least you had somebody like, what's her name? Miss Williams. I can't think of her first name though. But she was talking about she was there with him when he died. He told her stay woke. Now she's a woman that's was working with him in activism. Dick Gregory had a wife for 58 years. Ain't no way a woman who's married to a man for 58 years gonna let another woman be the last one in the room with him when he died. So I knew when she said that she was lying. You understand? I was like, okay, now she got her show over on the airways of PFW. I can't think of her first name, but y'all know what I'm talking about, man. Okay? So, but at least she faked that part to say I was with him when he died and these were his last words, okay? Nobody said that about Elijah. But now they talking about, because so much money came through the city, man, that was, they used it as a slush fund. So they can't take the chance. I'm talking about the Democratic Gangster Party now. They can't take the chance of having a neophyte like a Reba Hawkins or a Jill Carter or somebody else ascend to that position because they got to cover up their crimes. So they got to get somebody who's part of the criminal enterprise to take that seat to keep the trash can lid down so nobody gets in and does an audit of Elijah Cummings' 7th Congressional District and all the money that's coming to the district. So they want you to now to say that Kweisi, you don't fool me. Frizzell Gray, Michael Tate, and I'll eventually do an entire show talking about him because, again, when you know his history, as many of the elders I've talked to told me about his father, Michael Tate. That was his real name, okay? Told me about how they killed his father when he was going to go testify against Charlie Berman, okay? Then how they cleaned Kweisi Mfume up, right? Got him off Pennsylvania Avenue where he was slinging drugs for Colonel Watkins. And Watkins always said, anybody gonna sell drugs on Pennsylvania Avenue, you working for me, okay? So they cleaned Kweisi up, gave him the name Kweisi Mfume. Then, right, from Michael Tate, Frizzell Gray, Kweisi Mfume. Then they made him a city councilman. Now, once he became a city councilman, he didn't go after the people that killed his father, see? But yet he kept saying he was going down there to get rid of the political mob bosses. That's what he was saying. But unbeknownst to the people, he was controlled by those political mob bosses. You know, they talked that yak, but they was working for the mob bosses. So they cleaned him up. And after the students fought to get Morgan State University, they used Kweisi to, basically cool down Morgan State University so that it wasn't a strong black radio station. Then they came back years later when they saw Morgan again getting out of control as far as their white control, right? That Jewish control, because the longest serving member on the Board of Regents at Morgan is Marty Resnick, a Jewish man tied to the Resnick family that owns all these Martin facilities. Martin's East Wind, they go all the way down to Prince George's County, man. Next time I bring Dr. Randy Short on, he'll bear witness to what I'm saying. Okay? So now they have cleaned Kweisi Mfume up. I'll get in and talk about how he destroyed the NAACP and how they were getting ready to go after him in Congress, but he cut a deal with them so that he would quietly leave Congress, and they made him the head of the NAACP. Then when George Bush stole the election, the NAACP know what happened down in Florida. They wouldn't bring a lawsuit, right? When George Bush and the boys stole the election in Florida, and it was Kweisi Mfume and the NAACP that helped George Bush and them get elected. Next thing you know, George Bush and them made Kweisi, they made him the president of NAACP, and he destroyed the NAACP up there at Mount Hope Drive. He turned it into Mount Hope. He turned Mount Hope Drive into Mount Ho Drive with everything that was going on up there with him, Jamal Bryant, and Kweisi's son and others in terms of sleeping with women, running around with women, while black people was being illegally arrested, while black people were being killed, right, under Martin O'Malley. It was Kweisi Mfume that gave the green light for him. It was the end. This happened on the watch of the NAACP. Now, let's be clear. I talked to Lawrence Bell. He may not say it publicly. When he was running for mayor, he was the city council president. Then usually if you're city council president, you slide and become the mayor. He told me about a meeting he was at with Kweisi. Kweisi's supposed to be his cousin. He said he was called to a meeting with Peter Angelos, owner of the Oreos. And they were talking about they were going to support Lawrence Bell. But he said to Lawrence, your own cousin not supporting you. That was Kweisi. You don't fool me, man. So he stabbed his own cousin in the back. Okay? For Martin O'Malley. That's Kweisi. You don't fool me. Now, all these women he was sleeping with in the NAACP, along with Jamal Bryant. He spooned Jamal Bryant's wife before he gave it to Jamal. The girl that Jamal married Giselle wasn't the girl that he was going to marry. But Kweisi told him not to marry the girl he was going to marry and marry Giselle. And that's what Jamal Bryant did. That's why Jamal was at the press conference with him the other day, because that's his boy, okay? That's his boy, all right? So now, one of the ladies they mentioned was Michelle Speaks, who they had they paid her like $100,000. She was in the NAACP. I talked to brothers who worked there, and they said the women were in there fighting in the building, right? Throwing computers at each other and everything. This over what was going on with Kweisi Mfume, Jamal Bryant, Kweisi's son. Now, it's the same Kweisi that condemned, I think at that time, Ben Chavis for those things, and he gets in there and does the same thing. That's the interesting part, you know? And so they were turning tricks like they were David Copperfield and Harry Houdini for the most part. So now, Michelle Speaks, she gets a job. Martin O'Malley then brought her down the convention center, gave her a job at the convention center, right? So she had like, I think, $100,000 settlement. But there were other women as well. All this will eventually come out. So I don't give a damn what Doc Cheatham and the rest of them say. Anytime they want to have a debate, we can have some conversation about it, okay? And then people say, well, he was single. No, I'm not talking about that. Because the women he was messing with, they wasn't single, okay? They wasn't single. So that's you. Kweisi wasn't nothing but a hoe. Let's be clear about that. A jigger hoe, all right? Not a gigolo, all right? And Michelle Speaks eventually married Eric March. Michelle Speaks was working with Ben Cardin's office. If y'all don't know about Michelle Speaks, she know what happened to Ken Harris. She know about the woman Ken Harris was dating when Ken Harris was on the outs with his wife Annette, and Ken Harris was dating the girl who was married to a Baltimore City police officer named Corbett. Her name was Esther Kane Corbett. Let me just put that out there, okay? And she know that Ken Harris was dating Esther Kane Corbett. I talked to the late Reverend Earl Gilliard before he died, and he told me that he had let Dante Hickman use his car. And at that time, his car had a phone in it. He said Hickman was seeing this girl, Esther Kane Corbett, as well. And when he brought the car back, she called that night looking for Dante Hickman. So everybody know that Esther Kane Corbett was a loose woman. Let's be clear about that. And she was the woman that was with Ken Harris the night that he was killed. Okay? Now, many know that that woman was with him. But the fact was Michelle Speaks knew, and she never opened her mouth up about it as well. Then she got a job working with Sheila Dixon when Sheila Dixon was the mayor, working in the Department of Recreation under Wanda Durden. How do I know? When they was closing Rex, I was down at Robert C. Marshall when they brought in Wells Fargo to kick, I think it was Carmelo's mother was running the program down there, and they told Carmelo and his mother they didn't want to work with them anymore because they was getting money from Wells Fargo. And so Wells Fargo took over running at least the after school programs at Robert C. Marshall because it was tied to that elementary school down there, okay? And me and Michelle Speaks had some words, right? Then she hooks up with Eric March, marries Eric March because she lived over there. I used to see Brother Bradley, who was a homicide police officer. He lived over there in those apartments on those houses over on Utah Place, Cinnamon Run, up off of Wilson Street, all right? So let's keep going here. So she lived there. And I used to see Eric March coming to the house to cut her grass, right? And she ain't big as a loaf of bread with a wrapper on it. If the winch turns sideways, you file a missing person report on her, all right? So now she marries Eric March. Next thing you know, they open up a grocery store across from the Great Blacks and Wax Museum supermarket called Apples and Oranges, right? She is married to Eric March, but she's running around with a white guy, a white philanthropist who's a private equity business owner by the name of David Warnock. David Warnock is on the board of the Greater Baltimore Committee. If you go over to over there across the street from Shiloh Church, the church over that facility over there, what's it called? What's it called? Center for Urban Families with John Jones or whatever, where they was running their Promise Baltimore through when all that money came in. Promise Zone, right? So now she's married to Eric March, right? But she's running with David Warnock. So she was running with Warnock so much that they was going to change the name of the grocery store rather than call the supermarket Apples and Oranges. They was going to call it Peaches and Cream. You know what I mean, brother? All right? So she ends up leaving Eric March for David Warnock. And then last year she married David Warnock. It was so bad, they tell me that Eric March went crying to David Warnock, and Warnock wrote him a check, man. You know what I mean? Warnock ran for mayor in the last mayoral election. Now, if I was Eric March, I would have got in the mayor's race just to talk about here's this white boy sleeping with my wife, man. What kind of chump is Eric March? You gonna let a white boy take your wife from you, man? You're a modern day, what's that TV show was on Scandal? Fritz and Olivia, a modern day Fritz and Olivia. The white boy David Warnock gonna take your wife from you? Hey man, as I always said before, I know Halloween is coming past. You can't make a trick or treat, all right? You can't make a trick or treat. And if you could make a trick or treat, that'd be a revolutionary trick, man. And Michelle Speaks is a trick. So please don't try to make that trick or treat, all right? That's all I'm saying. But I'm coming back to all that was tied to Kweisi Mfume and what was going on at the NAACP. But the Democratic Party, the criminal element, are trying to cover up their crimes. So they can't have no neophytes ascend to that seat. They got to put somebody in that seat, right? They got to be more specific. They got to put Kweisi in the seat so the Kweisi can keep an eye on all that money that the Jews been siphoning off. The Zionists have been siphoning off. I ain't talking about that little Jewish man on your job. I'm talking about the Ben Cardins and the rest of them. If you don't know about that criminal Cardin family, go read about his cousin or his brother Jerome Cardin, who was tied to the SNL scandal. It was so bad, right? Nobody wanted to touch the Cardins. After he died, they asked William Donald Schaefer to pardon him in death, man, because they knew the kind of person he was who worked with Jeffrey Levitt and what was that, Old Court Savings and Loan. You don't believe me? I don't have to lie to you about the Cardin family. Just go read it. Their information is written regarding their crimes, man. Okay? But they control Kweisi Mfume. They controlled Elijah Cummings. Now you know why they keep sending your children to Israel. They ain't sending them to Ghana, to Ethiopia, Nigeria, Liberia. No, they sending them to South Africa. No, they sending them to Israel. Nowhere else, man. That's part of that criminal element. And all the money that's come through Elijah Cummings' office, they've been siphoning it off and using for themselves and their institution. That's why our communities look the way they look. And you got people who are running around here boo-hooing, crying at Elijah Cummings' funeral like that nigga really did something for our people, man. He was a modern-day Judas to the black community. A modern-day, as I said, right? Dr. Short said you shouldn't even put that on Benedict Arnold. He was a modern-day Benedict Arnold. They can't tell you one thing Elijah Cummings did for them at all. I keep telling you about the lead, high levels of lead in Baltimore City public schools. 180 schools, 157 of them got their fountains cut off. His alma mater, City College, got the fountains cut off as well. So you can't tell me he's done anything for his own alma mater. When you go to them schools, they turned off because I was with the organization Children First, that fought to get him cut off in 2007 because of the high levels of lead. And wait a minute, they tell me they shut schools down this week. Now, I don't know how, what do they call them? Professional development days. And they tell me it really wasn't no professional development day. They tell me they had engineers coming around checking the lead in the waters in the schools, man. But yet, if they were doing it on the DL. Nobody seen no report. That city health department should be releasing that. The mayor's office of children and youth services, what's her name down there? One come out of Baltimore City Public Schools, Tisha Edwards. That should be released, man. In terms of if they was in there testing schools for levels of lead in the water again. That's a public health crisis. But it went down on Elijah Cummings' watch. He didn't do anything. Went down on Kweisi Mfume as the NAACP. He didn't do anything except told him get Dr. Powers off the air so they could stop talking about what's happening in Baltimore City. They got Powers in them off the air and all them other real progressive shows off the airwaves at Morgan State University. Now you turn on, you got buffoonery, cocoonery, and tomfoonery over there for the most part. You got Tom Joyner, D.L. Hughley, Steve Harvey, Al Sharpton all in one over there on Morgan right now. Conversation be a mile wide and about an inch deep. And one of them person they got over there, he had nerve to use the name Muhammad over there, man. For Raji Muhammad. And don't be talking about nothing. Okay? So with that, we'll talk more about Kweisi, you don't fool me, man. And I definitely want to talk about this article that was in the paper today talking about Maryland leads in rate of black inmates, man. We 30% of the population, right? But most of the people in prison look like you and I. I'm going to come back and lay this whole article out, man. Because that's the sad, nobody's talking about it. As I talked about last week, those brothers that was exonerated, the Baltimore Five, Lamar Johnson, Jerome Johnson, Brother Clarence Shipley, Brother Scooter from Cherry Hill, Brother Walter Lomax, And I think the other brother's name was James, I think James Williams, right? We talked about that. I think that's the white guy. So we had 5 guys got exonerated. You know about the, what do you call it, Central Park 5? But they don't know about the Baltimore 5, right? But they be on, because you waiting on Oprah and Ava DuVernay to tell you about all these brothers that's being held in jail for crimes they didn't commit 20 and 30 years, man, right? So take them and multiply. And this is the time of the year during Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's that the NAACP, if they really cared, Urban League, if they really cared, these Christian ministers to say they have a ministry. You got one church call themselves Set the Captives Free. I'm trying to figure out who they ever set free up there, man, right? And they got a woman preacher up there. But if you got a ministry, you should be at least Nation of Islam, say they got a prison ministry as well, right? You got a lot of Muslim brothers. Some of them was Christian when they went in. Now they Muslims, but either way, they Muslim, right? Long as they Aslam Laikum, it ain't Aslam Fakums now, right? They do it just while they in jail, but then when they get out, you can't find them, all right? But the fact is, you should be at least supplying the governor with a list of brothers that should be pardoned during this time of year. The sisters who are going into prison say they got a sister ministry. Should be providing the governor with a list of black women, brown women, red women, yellow women, white women, but I'm particularly talking about black women now, during Thanksgiving that should be pardoned. Sentences should be commuted, right? And those who should be exonerated should be exonerated. It shouldn't take the Innocence Project, which is some white progressives, shouldn't take the Centurion Project, some white progressives, to get these brothers released and sentences exonerated, man. That's an indictment on our organization. That means you should be stepping up what you claim you're doing in terms of your prison ministries. But we should be furnishing this fat governor down there right now. Come on, man. And then also on a national level, to President Trump. We know he pardoned that one lady, Miss Johnson, right? But it shouldn't take Kim Kardashian sisters, shouldn't take Kanye West brothers to give the president of the United States a list of. He asked you before, what did you want? But y'all act like all of a sudden you don't want to be at the table because there's a Republican, right? This ain't 1619, this 2019, man. So he asked you, what did you want? And you could have given him a list. He asked Kaepernick what you want. He asked them NFL players what you want. Give me a list of grievances and let's sit down and talk about it. So we have to be politically mature and be willing to sit down and do just that. Black leadership should have been at the table to say just that. Let's get these brothers released, man. Let's get these women released so they can be made whole now. So those are things that we can be doing instead of running around here with these boogeyman politics. So let me move quickly, man. I said before, I ain't spend a whole lot of time talking about I heard my brother was talking about last night, this whole Buffalo wing story. Somebody going to Naperville, Chicago. That's outside of Chicago, Illinois. I don't eat it. I've never eaten in Buffalo. What do they call buffalo wings? Yeah. Right. But I've never eaten in buffalo wings. But the fact was that you had 2 managers got fired. I think they said they banned the customer who was like a lifetime customer or whatever. But you can't tell people where they can go, where they can sit, where they can eat, things like that. Now you have those calling for a boycott Buffalo wings. You can boycott them, right? But the man that own Buffalo wings, when you pull up the CEO, Paul Brown, you'll find out Buffalo wings, the people that own Buffalo wings are RB Restaurant, and I think it's Inspa brand. They own Sonics. They own like several restaurants. They ain't just Buffalo wing. So if we're going to call for a boycott, got to be real strategic on calling for a boycott or calling for a divestment or calling for sanctions, right? To be able to pull something like that off. But again, I'm sure the attorney who I saw, I think was, I can't think, it's Lambert. He's one of them boule attorneys out there in Chicago. He was the attorney for, I think, the young brother that got killed out there, Laquan McDonald. So we'll see in terms of what happens. But again, nothing like that should happen where somebody's telling you where you can sit because somebody's uncomfortable with your presence in any restaurant. But of course, we should be at our own. But if they're traveling as they were in a large group, then of course they were stopping in and get something to eat at Buffalo Wings. The other story, of course, was this whole Popeyes. Now, clearly, you should be eating at home. Stop running to Popeyes, right? Okay? Stay out of Popeyes, Trico Bell, McDeff, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Cindy's, and all them other places, right? Eat at home, man. Eat at home. That's the best place you should be eating. But clearly, what Popeyes is using is social engineering on the people or the sheeple right now. And the killing or the stabbing was not over the sandwich, but the killing or the stabbing of this young man. What was his name? Kevin Davis? Is that what they identified the victim as? Is his name Kevin Davis, 28 years old? They still looking for the suspect, right? But it wasn't. Yeah, they have a picture of him and the woman who was with him, right? But it wasn't over the sandwich. It was in fact over him jumping in the line. Now that's nothing new, and that's not germane to the black community, right? You had a white man kill another white man over the Washington football team losing to the Dallas Cowboys or beating the Dallas Cowboys last year in Prince George's County. But I ain't hear nobody say that was, white on white violence, right? So all I'm saying, don't change when it comes to black folk. But again, you'll see more of that with the holiday season coming up because we live in an society of instant gratification, right? Somebody cut you off in traffic and somebody ready to get out the car and fight. What they call that? Road rage, right? They don't just call it black road rage, right? They say it's road rage, right? And you coming up on what they call it traditionally Black Friday, right? And you know Black Friday going to be plenty fights because somebody jumping in the line on somebody, right? Because this is the society of instant gratification. So don't try to reduce it to black folk because you find Koreans, Asians, blacks, whites, different people responding that way over instant gratification. So that's the bottom line. But as I heard, the morning show spent 4 hours talking about it. Then had the Lieutenant Governor, Boyd Rutherford, come on and ask him what did he think about that, man. You said, man, with all the serious issues to ask the Lieutenant Governor, you going to ask him about a chicken sandwich? Like, nigga, please. You understand? You supposed to be intelligent? You a senator, ex-senator Larry Young? You going to ask him, Boyd Rutherford, about a chicken sandwich from Popeyes? It's a waste of airtime, man. They need to put signs on the microphone, say keep out of reach of children or keep out of reach of dummies, man. Is you going to spend your time asking that kind of foolishness? So, but again, it's a society that thrives off instant gratification, man. They want it when they want it. That's why they mad with the squeegee boys. They ain't mad with the squeegee boys because they out there, but the fact is they holding up traffic when that light change, right? That light change, they ready to go 0 to 100, man. As I said before, I used to be out there suit and bow tie on. And so I was dressed to the nine, looking fine. And you curse me out, why? Holding up the traffic when that light changed, right? That light changed, they ready to go. And that's men and women, young and old. When that light changed, they ready to go. So why? Because they live in a society of instant gratification. It's straight out of that Pavlovian theory, right? About the dog start salivating, right? So that's what you're dealing with, man. Classical conditioning of the people. And that's what's happening right now. It's not just germane to the black community. But again, what you see Popeyes doing is just classic social engineering in terms of the marketing of a sandwich. And people spend all their time talking about which one's better, Popeyes or Chick-fil-A. You know what I mean? I'm not wasting my time having that conversation. Chick-fil-A. Yeah, but I ain't wasting my time having that conversation, right? But let me get into this Harriet Tubman movie, man, quickly before we open up the lines. Because I saw the movie, and as I said on the show Saturday, it comes out, of course, 2019, and this is the 400 year, according to their records, of our Mayafa, or our enslavement inside of America. So I thought more movies would have come out this year in 2019. So we getting ready to move out of 2019. It's the first movie that's been released about our Mayafa, or our enslavement. So you had a group, as I mentioned last week, they call themselves ADOS. What they call themselves? American Descendants of Slaves. Now that's a new group that just popped up within the last couple of years. I've never heard anybody call themselves American Descendants of Slaves. It's like you accepting that, you claiming that, but don't apply, let it fly. I wouldn't do that. So you say that as if slavery was natural. Slavery was not natural, as all of our great scholars have said. Okay. So this group we're talking about, and rightfully so, the leading actress who was chosen, right, or handpicked to be Harriet Tubman, because she was straight out of I think it was Broadway's Color Purple, right? So, and of course, so she's a Nigerian, but she's of British descent. Now, you know, as I said, if you do a movie about Haile Selassie, who was an Ethiopian, they're going to pick an Ethiopian to play him. I wish you would go get a Somalian to play Haile Selassie. Them Ethiopians will burn the set down, man. I wish you would go get a Eritrean to play, even though they from that same region. Them Ethiopians would come and burn the set down before they let you have somebody else playing Haile Selassie, one of their heroes, man. But we're at a time now where they're rewriting history, relighting history, right? Not for the adults, but for the next generations to come. So this is not the first movie on Harriet Tubman. There was one that was done by Cicely Tyson back in, I think, the 70s, I believe. So this movie, which was, I think, distributed, produced by a black woman, Deborah Chase Martin. And then they said the other woman, of course, did the production or directing, Cassie Lemon. And I was reading her interview, and I think it was either Oprah magazine, in which she was saying she didn't want to do another slave movie because it would be so boring. Now this is a black woman saying slavery is boring, right? Now you never find a Jew say they don't want to do a movie on the Holocaust because it would be boring. So this is that black elitism. This is these weaponized. This is how they think. I don't want to do no movie about slavery. It's boring, right? See, it's the pain of slavery, and this is what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in terms of the crimes of the whites who enslaved our fathers. He said their greatest crime wasn't that they enslaved us. He said their greatest crime was they robbed us of the desire to want to know what happened to us. So that's their even greatest crime. As Stephen Biko said, that the greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor are the minds of the oppressed. So this was classical conditioning, what you're seeing, that you would have those say they don't want to see a movie about slavery. And this is 2019. We've been here 1619. A Jew would never say they don't want to see a movie about the Holocaust. A Native American would never say they don't want to see a movie about what happened to the Indians on the reservations, man, about their Mayalpha. We the only ones to say we don't want to see another movie about slavery. Why? Right? What? It's something inside that was done to us that we don't want to talk about that. But what you see today in terms of our behaviors, right, from A to Z is a direct connect to what happened to our mothers and fathers, then passed on to us through generations. Okay? That's why we got to lay down new tracks. When you hear about violence, that ties right back to what happened to us in slavery. That's all. Same thing. You didn't have as much violence on the plantation, but what they put in us and what they did to us coming off those ships, right? And I know some of y'all, they'll say, well, we was already here. Okay. Oh, you was already here. How you get that last name you got there if you was already here? If you free, why come you ain't free in your names? Why you still Mr. Brown, Mr. Black, Mr. Bunch, Mr. Tree, Mr. Winter, Mr. Roundtree, Mr. Turnipseed? How you get them names? Those are surnames taken from the slave masters, the ones who owned our great-great-great-grandmothers and grandfathers. That's how we got those names. But we don't even want to have those basic conversations no more. In the 60s, we was having those conversations, right? Today, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, we was having them conversations. Today, we don't even want to have them conversations, man. In the 60s, we was talking about, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. We don't even want to have them conversations no more, right? We was going natural. We don't even want to do that. Brothers done gone back to dyeing hair, frying hair, buying hair. Sisters done gone back to dyeing hair, frying hair, buying hair, man, right? So, but let's get into this movie, Harriet, man. Because I went to see the movie, right? I read before I went to see the movie. And the movie starts off with her waking up from one of her fainting spells that she was having. Now, they never show what happened to her. She only mentions that she was hit in the head with a rock when she was a little girl, right? But they never show that scene. Now, the movie was a PG-13. Now, that was interesting. I'm saying a movie about slavery, and it's PG-13? You say, what is this, a Disney movie? It's a movie about slavery, and it's a PG-13 movie, man. One of them PG-13 about slavery? Django was a rated R. 12 Years a Slave was a rated R. You got a movie about slavery, and unless you know it was going to be watered down, man. Life doing on the plantation wasn't no crystal staircase, man. Even for some of the house slaves, all right? So, again, some of the best movies about our Mayalpha and enslavement, Brother Haile Selassie, Ethiopia, did Sankofa, but he put blacks from America in the movie, Sankofa. Goodbye Uncle Tom, if you've never seen that, another good movie. Even Roots was half decent, you know what I mean? Half decent. That we find out that, what's his name, really didn't even do Roots himself, Alex Haley, an old government agent, Alex Haley, all right? That was done by Harry Kolodner, a white man, and it was called The Africans. If you don't believe me, just put in Harry Kolodner, Kolodner, The African. There was a court case in which he sued Alex Haley, and the judge said, you ain't even try to change the language. You wrote it word for word in terms of this from the man's book. And Alex Haley had to pay the man out of court, man. Okay? But this movie, Harriet, right? The cast the lead star, Cynthia Vero of Britain, right? I mean, you can't find all these beautiful black women in America. You couldn't, man, you could have used Sister Nikki. You know what I mean? A beautiful sister. She could have played Harriet Tubman. You mean all these beautiful black women in America, you had to find a Briton, a Nigerian to play Harriet Tubman? I mean, we come in all different flavors, don't we? We come in, right? Hey, man, I came out of a family of 8, bruh. I had a sister dark as 12 midnights, man, but beautiful. Then I'm light, right? Then I had a sister that was high yellow almost, right? So we come in all different flavors. Yeah, man, you couldn't find some black women in America to play Harriet Tubman. You had to go get somebody from Britain, right? So again, that speaks volume, or lets you see there was an agenda with this. So the movie PG-13, it was done by Comcast, but it was a subsidiary of Comcast. I think it's called, what's it called? Freedom Focus or Focus Film, something Focus Film, right? So it's Comcast Universal that actually produced the movie. So those are small hats, or as Brother Irritated Genie and the brothers in PKV say, not the movies, but the juvies, okay? Let's be clear about that, all right? So how could they tell our story? And that's the interesting part. So now, they never show what really happened to her while she was having these fainting spells. So now, she wants the master Brodus, and the movie, and the Slate newspaper wrote a good article, and I posted it on my page. It's called The Facts versus Fiction with the movie of Harriet, right? They were creating people that really didn't exist, man. All right? It's all throughout the movie. But the interesting part was her so-called master was Brodus down in Dorchester County, right? So he promised that he was gonna set them free when they turned 45. So they had asked and said, now you know on the plantation, you couldn't talk to the white man, look him in the eye like that. They trained you to look down at the feet, man. But this was going on in the movie. So the man said he wasn't gonna sell him, he wasn't gonna set her free, right? And so then she prayed for his death. The man dies like the next day or something like that, right? This is what goes on. All right. Then the son said they were going to sell her because they thought that she was one that prayed for his death. This is what they were saying, right? Son name was Gideon. Now, in the movie, that was his name, Gideon. In reality, Mr. Brodus' son name was John down in Dorchester County. Now, when you Google what does the name Gideon mean? See, so the people that produced this movie understand that. Gideon means the destroyer, right? It says the man with a stump also. He's the one-armed man, and he's the destroyer. Now, at the end of the movie, before the end of the movie, one of the climactic scenes, Harriet Tubman shoots his hand off. Now he's Gideon, see? The man with the one-armed hand. That's in the movie. They play that out to the end. But he was the boy who she prayed for when he was little. He had some type of illness, and she prayed over him so that he wouldn't die, is what she said, right? So there was something between her and Gideon in terms of this bond, is what he was saying. And even toward the end of the movie, when they had this climactic scene, he said, "You was always mine." Now she don't kill him. She only shoots his hand off. Let's be clear about that, okay? But let's get into some of the meat of what I clearly saw. Because there was a lot of signs, symbols, numerology, the colors of what she was wearing, right, in the movie. But the most telling part of the movie, right, was when she was going to run away, her husband, John, was going to run with her. She told him no. She didn't want him to run with him, right? So when she runs and the slave masters catch up with her, right? Gideon and the other guys, white guys who was looking for her. She jumps in the river, right? Because she went to see the preacher. They showed the preacher at the beginning. He preaching to the slaves, talking about be a good slave, obey your master. You know all the things they would teach you, still teach you today, okay? You get yours in a sweet by and by, okay? That was it. So now she jumps in the river and she's able to make it to Delaware. She gets to Delaware. They tell her to look for John Steele, right? Then from there, I think she gets into Pennsylvania. That's where she finds John Steele, all right, in Pennsylvania, okay? So now she tells him about her, she came from Dorchester County, 100 miles by herself, right? You see Steele, He throwing up a lot of signs and symbols. He's basically Freemason. You can see all that, what he was throwing. Hands over the heart. He was throwing up all the signs and symbols, okay? All right? So he says, let's give you a name. So she says, in reality, the name he gave her was Moses. But he asked her, you should take a new name with your freedom. She said, my mother's first name was Harriet, and my husband's last name was Tubman. So I'll be Harriet Tubman. That's in the movie. And her real name in the movie, of course, her slave name was Arminta, and they called her Minty Ross, right? Arminta Minty Ross is what they called her. So now it's been 2 years, and then she wants to go back to Maryland to rescue her mother and her husband, and I think some family members. So when she goes back 2 years now, her husband John, who had been beaten, I think he was beaten, I think he lost the eye or something, right? Or his vision was scarred in one eye by the slave master, because they said, you came to the house the night she ran, so you must have known that she ran. This is what they said. So, okay. So when she comes back to him, before she comes back to him, she's in Philadelphia where she met Steele. Then Steele tells her to go to, she meets him at 4th and Shipley. Then he tells her about a house, I think it was on 7th and Walnut. The woman who was running that house, they didn't call it did they call it a brothel? They called it some kind of house, though. They made me want a brothel, okay? But the woman who was running the house, her name was Maria Buchanan. Now, Maria Buchanan was somebody that they created, right? Maria Buchanan didn't exist in history, right? That was the role played by Janelle Monáe, right? Who just recently came out over the past year, said she's openly gay, then said she was a pansexual, right? This is what she said, all right? Now, there's the scene where Harriet is taking her clothes off, and Janelle Monáe is looking in the mirror, Miss Buchanan, and she looks back at Harriet as she's getting undressed. So that was a sign of something else that would play itself out later on in the movie. Now, remember that scene now, for those of you that saw the movie. So now she goes back after that, and she goes back to Dorchester County, goes to her husband John, and she sees him. Now, the interesting part about this movie, it's a movie about Africans who were kidnapped from Africa, brought to America, but I never heard one African drum throughout the whole movie, man. If you notice that, not one sound of Africa, except the singing of the song about Pharaoh, let my people go. Other than that, no mention of Africa, no sound of Africa. Now, you can't have a movie about slavery and the drum's not there, because the drum was always used, of course, to mark time, to send signals, etc., right? But none of that was going on, all right? So let's keep going. I just noticed, these are observations that I noticed here. So now she goes back, she sneaks in on her husband because she was singing a song, and then, he talks to her, and he said, I thought you were dead. He said, it's been 2 years, and I was told you jumped in the river. He said, I thought you had died. He said, so I took another wife, right? Then Harriet says to him, you couldn't wait for me, you took another wife? They turned this into the Housewives of Dorchester County from my perspective, all right? Then she told him, don't touch me, right? He was trying to hug her, to comfort her, right? She said to him, don't touch me, right? So, because she was saying to him that she was coming back to get him to go, and then he told her that he didn't think he thought she was dead, and therefore he took on another wife, right? So now she don't want him to touch her at all. So then she goes and get, I think, some other relatives, and she takes them back to Philadelphia, right? Then when she gets back to Philadelphia, she's in the bathtub. Check this scene out. This is the homo promo scene right here. She's in the bathtub taking a bath. Janelle Monáe character, Maria Buchanan, is talking to her while she's naked in the tub. I know y'all saw it, but you're going to pretend like you didn't see it, okay? All right? Now, ain't no other woman going to be combing and brushing your hair and being tender towards you. It wasn't because she wasn't tending to no scars on her feet. She didn't just get whipped by the slave master. She just came back from bringing other enslaved Africans to Philadelphia. So she's sitting in the bathtub, and what she was essentially doing is telling Janelle Monáe about the fact that when she went back for her husband, that her husband had remarried. So here's Janelle Monáe brushing her hair, and listen to the conversation. I wish I had the clip to play for you, man. She says to her, what would a man know about you as a woman who's been touched by God? But yet she's touching her. But she's going to tell her, she didn't say that man. She said, what would any man, right? But she's sitting there naked, and the other woman's behind her brushing her hair, right? And throughout that movie, there was no other man that Harriet Tubman was intimate with or gave that kind of attention to other than Marie Buchanan, if y'all didn't peek that. I peeked it. There was a picture when John Steele, the man who had helped her when she came to Philadelphia, he was taking a picture with her, put his hand on her hand. She slapped his hand away. This in the movie. Didn't want a man to touch her, but she wanted this other woman to touch her. Now, I don't know if y'all didn't peek. If you peeked it, please let me know, because I peeked it through the movie. Now, I missed the one part. I stepped out. The one part after they passed the Slave Fugitive Act, right? In which Gideon and the black guy who they hired as a slave catcher to come with them, and they went to Philadelphia, right? So now Harriet's in Philadelphia. They looking for her, and they go to the house. They beat the character played by Janelle Monáe, Maria, and Harriet comes in while they're beating her, but she never steps in to help her, obviously, or stop them, right? So while they had passed the Slave Fugitive Act, and everybody's getting ready to get on the ship to leave to go from Philadelphia to go further up north, whether it was New York or Canada, John Steele is telling Harriet, come on, we got to go, right? She's not saying I got to get my other family members. She said, I got to go get Marie, right? That's what she say, right? So then when she go to the house is when they beating her up. And after they beat her up, they leave the house, and then Harriet Tubman goes over, of course, comforts her as she's dying, right? This is what you see. So you don't see that with anybody else in this whole movie. Just this relationship between her and Harriet, man. That was being put out there on the screen for everybody to see around the world, okay? So now they go to, I think they were in Canada or New York, and there were people in the room, Frederick Douglass and others, that were supposed to be these Quakers, which is supposed to be they call them the members of the Underground Railroad, right? Conductors and so forth for the Underground Railroad. But they're in this room, and they were talking about whether it was safe to go back to free after what had happened, and then the Fugitive Slave Act, which was passed. So then Harriet says, you all are talking about slavery, but none of you ever lived through slavery. Now, I thought that was interesting that they said that in the movie. Here's some people playing Africans, right, in America, but none of them are Africans. They're of other, British colonized countries, Nigeria, etc., right? They playing us in a movie, but yet they in the movie saying to others, y'all can't tell us what's best for those who was enslaved when none of y'all was ever enslaved. I thought that was a telltale sign of the movie, man. It's almost like practice what you preach there, and reality for Cynthia and Vero and those who put this whole movie together. Because when I was reading it, only one that ever said they read any books about our Maiafa and our enslavement was Leslie Odoms, who I believe played John Steele or played her husband, John Tubman. Okay? But again, she didn't want Tubman to touch her, but yet she kept that name, Harriet Tubman. So I thought that was interesting. The only intimacy I saw in the movie with Harriet Tubman after she kissed her husband in the beginning of the movie. But after that part where he told her that she thought she was dead and he took on another wife, she was never intimate in terms of hugging another man in any way, shape, or form. The only one was with Janelle Monáe. And of course, Janelle Monáe came out as being gay, right? And of course, her first movie that she came out with was in Moonlight, which was about pedophilia. So I thought that was really a slap in the face, right? The movie never really moved me beyond that, man. In terms of, again, the courage of Harriet Tubman to keep going back, whether it was 70 or 300 people she bought. There was a little mention of that, but not a lot of mention of that in terms of in the movie. There was a lot more that I could talk about in terms of signs, symbols, numerology, gematria, but I don't want to get into a lot of that. Look at the color schemes of what she was wearing. But as I said before, the climactic scene was when Gideon and the bounty hunter, big whatever his name was, when they were hunting down Harriet, and she said, the whole thing about, the whole speech about slavery, God don't want people owning people, yeah, all of that, and then talking about get free or die trying. Now that's that 50 Cent slogan, right? And what 50 Cent said, get rich or die trying, right? Harriet Tubman ain't never said no bullshit like that, man. But they took that, brought it up to 2019, and put that into the mouth of Harriet Tubman. So you have to ask, what was their real motive with that? But I really didn't think that the movie did justice to talk about really the contributions of Harriet Tubman. And then I think at the same time, I know that in New York, they're fighting to keep her home up in Mount Vernon, New York, the home of Harriet Tubman. So for those of you that saw it, let me know what your thoughts are. I had much more I could talk about as far as colors I saw her wearing through the movie, what they represented. But that climactic scene where Gideon was wearing black, she was wearing red, as if she was a scorned woman, right? And then she gets the gun. After she shoots his hand off, he's down with one hand. And when you look up Gideon, just Google Gideon, as I said before, and what does the name Gideon really mean, okay? So they were using names for certain reasons once you begin to peel back and look at that information of what they were doing. But just wanted to get your thought on it. If you saw it, I think I had some other points I wanted to make. But Slate newspaper did an article on Harriet Tubman, facts versus fiction, talking about just that. But the question will always be asked, what was the real motive of Comcast or Freedom? What's it called? Freedom Focus Films or whatever they called it? Focus Freedom, right? What's the real motive of them to release it now? And as I said before, now they're coming out with, I saw posted Daniel Kugler doing this whole story. He's another British actor, right? Who's doing Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. And I'm going to hopefully have Chairman Fred on soon before December 4th, talk about just that, because there's been a lot going on in Chicago. And they're filming this movie apparently in Cleveland as well. So keep your eyes open and continue to send that positive energy and synergy of energy to Chairman Fred Hampton Sr., his mother, and all of those comrades in Chicago. Because, again, none of this, I think, is a coincidence. But this Harriet Tubman movie is a biopic. And I understand that this young lady, Cynthia Enviro, is supposed to be playing Aretha Franklin also. Now, after Aretha Franklin died, they said Aretha Franklin said she wanted Jennifer Hudson to play her, right? Of course, we know it wasn't nobody but that old bisexual, broke-back, homo-promo Clive Davis that said that, right? So, of course, that's after they sacrificed Whitney. Probably sacrificed the Queen's soul as well, So, but that was Clive Davis, who, of course, benefited from the death of Whitney, benefited from the death of Aretha, and so many others that, of course, you go back to Clive Davis with, what was the sister before Whitney came on the scene? Phyllis Hyman, right? For those that really know, Phyllis Hyman, right? Clive Davis had her under his tutelage as well. So Clive had a lot of our sisters that kind of died mysteriously. Phyllis Hyman dies, the next thing you know, here come Whitney Houston, okay? Almost the same way, pills they said they found in her house or in her apartment building. But again, you tune to the state of the city. But this biopic of Harriet Tubman was clearly a cut and paste job from what I saw, man, as I said before. And was supposed to have been about liberation, not resistance. So when you hear them say resistance, you got to watch it. That's a term the ADL has used when they put out that hashtag resist Trump. So, and they said the majority of the people that went to see the movie, black women, they know you're going to go see the movie just like y'all was when they went to binge watch. What was that movie came out last year? Girls Trip? Yeah, they were girl tripping to go see Girl Trip. You know what I mean? So that's what they know. That they bring out a movie like this, black women gonna go see it. I had the statistics in front, but I won't get into that in terms of how many people went to see it. I wanted to see it because I wanted to be able to share the information up close and personal from being able to sit down and watch it and look at, of course, the messages that was being said, right? The overt, covert messages. And as I said before, this is targeted at our young people, man. So it's not targeted at those of us who know Harriet Tubman. But right now, they're rewriting history. And unfortunately, a lot of people that's rewriting the history is the Zionists that control the LGBTQZ in terms of that movement. And they're rewriting history and telling our story. So be careful, because they'll grab Harriet and say Harriet was fighting for their freedom, man. So be careful. Be very careful and be watchful. So with that, I want to open up the lines. If you got a thought, question, comment for these next 30 minutes, 404-436-1277. Or if you got a comment on Facebook, you can comment on Facebook. You can get him if you haven't seen the movie, or if you disagree with what I'm saying about the movie Harriet. And I know some of y'all say, man, just go see the movie, Brother Muhammad. What you talking about? It's a movie about our ancestor. Yeah, it's a movie about our ancestor. But again, what's the motive of the people that put that movie out there? And did you see these hidden messages that was being put out there as well for our people? So as the living legend, Baba DeGregor always said, once you put them glasses on, the magic glasses on, you can't take them off, man. And I can't force some of y'all to see what I see as well in terms of what's out there. But if you reason with me, you say, yeah, I saw that part. All right? But with that, if you got a thought, question, comment, 404-436-1277. You can call in. If not, got a comment on Facebook. And with that, we'll go with that, my brother. We got any thoughts, questions, comments up there? See my main man, Dr. Randy Short, out there watching. Shout out to Dr. Short. Shout out to all the brothers and sisters watching as well, man, online. And those on the line. We got any calls on the line? Any callers in the queue?
Brother Darren. How you doing, Brother Darren?
It's my main man, Brother West. How you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm still seeking, man. I had to go through 2 different search engines to get you live, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, brother, just having the tenacity to be patient to go through them search engines to get me live, my brother. But come on up in here, brother. What you got to say and add to the conversation, Brother West?
Well, with that Harriet Tubman movie, and you say that the lady's name was something Buchanan?
Yeah, Maria Buchanan. Now, I haven't looked up what does the word Maria mean and what does Buchanan mean. But usually there's meaning to those names and why they even put those names out there, like they did with the white boy who they created called Gideon and gave him the name Gideon.
Well, see, if you break down that Buchanan, you get the word butch. The first word, butch.
A butch. Okay? A butch or a buck.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay. And the follow up on I just saw what you did your show last week because I couldn't get the live this week. But I think the scaredest Negro in America now to be alive. You know who it is now?
Who's that?
John Lewis, man.
Yeah.
He's taking in his damn boots down here in Atlanta. I guarantee.
Yes, sir.
And I saw it's a Berkshire Hathaway building down here in Atlanta too, man. I passed by that that's months ago.
Yeah, that's Berkshire Hathaway. That's Warren Buffett. Now you heard me talking about them California fires out there, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you see the other day? Did you see the other day where the governor of California said that he want Warren Buffett to buy PG&E? Now Warren Buffett is already a heavy investor in PG&E Energy out there. He wanted him to buy the whole company now, and at the same time, the railroads out there where they're gonna run these high-speed railways or high-speed trains. Warren Buffett already owned the railways, man. So he trying to give the whole kit and caboodle to Warren Buffett. They're not even hiding what they're trying to do right now, my brother.
Yes, sir. You know I'm an electrician, so them smart meters is blowing up, man.
Right.
They catching on fire. Even in Atlanta, every week, every day, somebody's house catch on fire.
Yeah.
And also, they talking about running a high-speed rail from here to North Carolina, man.
All over the country they coming with that. Between the high-speed rail, the energy pipelines. You saw where they had to explode in Dakota recently, right? With the pipelines.
Yes, sir.
Right? So that was the whole thing we talked about with Bill Cosby with the pipelines they want to run up Northeast direct pipeline with Kinder Morgan, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's what's happening all around the country, man, where it'll be coming where they're gonna have these mysterious fires in certain cities, and all they doing is clearing the land so they can get ready for these high-speed rails or for the pipelines that they want to run as well. So thank you, my brother West, all right?
Oh, yeah. One more thing. Yeah, you're right, man. That thing, Baghdadi, that's another psyops, man. That Baghdadi thing last week.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. Right. Ali Baghdadi, they had him dying in about 7 places. They did about the 7th time they killed him, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So either that or they done cut some people money off over there because right after that, John Lewis died, right? So even them Arabs might have got some money cut off in Detroit that was supposed to be coming their way, right?
Yeah, you mean what's the dude in Detroit?
Yeah, John Conyers. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So absolutely, and we still got people being rounded up going down to Gitmo, right?
Yes, sir.
That was another story about Elijah Cummings, whether he got rounded up and went down to Guantanamo Bay. So we always look at it from all sides. All right.
Yeah, man. Oh, yeah. One more thing. What you thinking about Obama talking about saying something like you talking about we woke and whatever and not doing that, man. All of a sudden he talking.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know if that's him talking or it could be a clone. You see that movie Gemini Man? You got to go see that now.
Yeah.
All right.
I peeped that.
Okay.
Hey, one more thing. Trump supposed to be down in Atlanta this weekend on Friday, man, talking about Negroes from Trump, man.
Yeah. Well, I have to look into that, what he's down there for, all right?
Yes, sir. All right. Oh, they're going to be the Democrat debate at the same time, man. So John Lewis better look out. John Lewis better look out.
Absolutely. Well, he definitely in the crosshairs, brother. All right?
All right, my brother. Peace out. Keep doing
all right,
what
peace to
you're
you,
doing.
brother
Stay
West.
strong,
Number
man.
love
Stay
for
black.
you, brother. All right, thank you now.
All right.
All right, with that, we'll
sir.
take more calls, or if you got a comment on Facebook, 444-436-1277. Got any other callers in the queue?
No.
Got some comments?
Yes.
All right, come on up in here with them comments, man. I know some of y'all, man, I seen the movie. I think it was good. I think she ought to get an Oscar. Yeah, right. Okay. All right. Okay. As my brother Irritated Jenny say, man, watch them weaponized celebrities that they use on our people, brother. So let's get to the comments, brother. Thank you, brother D.
How have these elite whites like Buffett, Gates, and the Rockefellers get their money and wealth? That's the question I ask.
Oh, they make their money the old-fashioned way, man. They lie, they steal, they beat, they pillage. You know what I mean? They trick the people out of their money. That's how they get their money, man. So that's how most of them have gotten their money. You know, when you know Berkshire Hathaway, we talk about Quicken Loans, we talk about Wells Fargo, as far as the mortgage crisis. Berkshire Hathaway benefited from that as well, man. So they've been one of them as well. But that's that old money when you talk about Warren Buffett. And as I mentioned last week, how they would buy up the newspapers in certain towns while they were coming through with the railroads, right? And Buffett is moving coal. While at the same time, they telling people that there's a war in the coal industry. Buffett is moving a lot of coal on them trains across country. So he just bought up I think it's BNSFN or something like that. And he's owned that for years. And every time you hear about trains overturning, that's Warren Buffett trains. But you never hear members of Congress or the Senate talking about going after Buffett. And he owns heavily stocked in PG&E, which is like BG&E on the West Coast. So he's making a lot of money off of the fires. And a lot of times they'll put money on what they call put options, whether the stock go up or go down based on a catastrophe happening, man. So that's how Warren Buffett and a lot of these. You saw the movie Wall Street. That's how they just modern day Gordon Geckos, man, in terms of how they make their money. They ain't no more smarter than you and I. They just shrewder. That's all. We not shrewd. They are. So that's how they make their money. And have always made their money, you know, in this country and in other countries as well. Soros the same way. So good question. Next question or comment?
Thank you for the info on the movie that I won't see. I know it's just another method of the psychological manipulation that they continuously do on us. You continue to be you and stay on point.
Promise I will. Thank you very much. That was sweet and right to the point. Thank you very much.
There is a slave Bible on display in the Bible Museum in D.C. that has 47 chapters that teach obedience to the white master. You cannot make this stuff up.
Yeah, 47. That's interesting. Harriet Tubman in numerology, 47 as well. I think as I was reading a post from a young man that talks about the numerology as well. So, yeah, it's interesting. 47 Euclid. And I'm beginning to ask her questions in terms of was she part of a secret society? Because clearly up in New York and in Philadelphia, you saw a lot of signs, symbols, numerology being put out there in terms of the secrets. And I think in the movie, John Steele referred to her as an initiate. So when you say somebody's an initiate, that's a secret, okay? But we'll see. But that doesn't I think take back from her, except she was supposed to be with John Brown when John Brown went down in the Harper's Ferry. Harriet Tubman didn't come. Now she said that was probably one of the things that she didn't do. But in the movie, when she kept having the fainting spells, it was interesting because when they asked Deborah Martin Chase why was she putting that in the movie, guess what she said that was? She said that was her spidey sense. You know what I mean? So I said, what is this? What is this? A real movie or a Marvel movie, man? You know what I mean? That's her sixth sense. And not saying you can't have a sixth sense or have intuition, but you start talking about a spidey sense. That's Spider-Man, right? That's what Deborah Chase Martin said, not Brother Muhammad. So that's why I said, how can you make a movie about Alpha or enslavement, right? And it's a PG-13. But next question or comment.
Baltimore Police Department has been corrupt for decades.
Yes, absolutely. Needs to be in receivership. That's the only way you can. That's the only way you can stop the bleeding and the hemorrhaging, and perhaps save more lives of other decent police officers in the police department. But the silence, as Dr. King said, there comes a time when silence is betrayal, and the black officers, the Vanguard Justice Society, Butler, and the rest of them have betrayed the family of Officer Sean Suter. So if they would do that to him, and then the only thing they want to do is take their drunk asses over Melba's and have a drink for them, you know what I mean? Or whatever other water hole they hang out in, man. Then what will they do for you and your loved ones in the city of Baltimore? Absolutely nothing. They won't lift a finger to help that mother and that wife of Sean Suter. That's the sad part. And they'll be ready to go jump into Chesapeake Bay in a month or so. Tell them they raising money for Amy Caprio or fallen soldiers. This Veteran Day coming up. They'll be talking about first responders. Tell them take that first responder and shove it up their first responder. So with that, we'll take the next comment.
And this is kind of what you just touched on. Like the lawyer said, if they do this to one of their own, you can only imagine what they will do to you and have already done to our own.
That's right. Absolutely. That gun trace task force, their crimes were just scratching the surface for the most part. And when the people really found out, you know what I mean? The people would be asking this police department be dissolved and you bring in something new and something better. They would be asking for Baltimore City government to be dissolved because too many politicians have sat back and watched this take place and have done nothing and have said nothing. They're the same ones tell our people, you need to turn in your relatives that's out here committing crimes, but they won't turn in one corrupt police officer that's committing the crime, and they know it. Some of them are doing security on the mayor tonight as we speak, man. So they tell them practice what they preach, bunch of hypocrites. Next comment.
Who is responsible for them making Harriet Tubman gay?
Again, you got to look at Casey, what's her name? Casey Lemon? Is that her name? Right? And Deborah Chase Martin. They the ones got to decide. Besides the Jews who green-lighted it for our designers that gave them the money, they get final say on the scripts, man. So they're the ones that's doing it. And they're the ones that's pushing this whole agenda right now. So go watch them. You see that movie? She in the bath. The first time she was in the bathtub, she was getting undressed. Janelle Monáe character looks back at her, right? She usually woman trying, you private, you ain't looking at her. She looking back at her, had a little smile on her face. Then later on in the movie, after she come back from saying her husband got just remarried, and she in the tub naked, and Janelle Monáe's combing her hair, brushing her hair, So you say, what is this really all about, man? This colored purple shit again, all over again. Pardon my language. Pushing that on our people, man. Next comment.
It's sad because I've seen busloads of children from schools going to see this movie.
That's what they were doing, man. So what they essentially were saying in the movie, right? That again, no black. Where can we see a movie where you see some real black love between a black man and black woman, man? These movies are not putting that out there right now. You watch television shows, what they pushing? Blackish, coonish, right? Half-ish, all that kind of stuff, man. They even got a new show on TV where the Nigerian woman got a white man, right? You seen that new show?
I've seen the previews. I haven't watched the show. Yeah,
but that's what they pushing right now, man. That's what's being pushed. You turn your TV on, and they taking these characters from these TV shows, right, or these Netflix shows and Amazon shows, right, where they finding them and then putting them on the big screen, man. That's the sad part. But we gotta guard our minds, our hearts. It's a spiritual warfare, man. And as I said before, it's for the hearts and the minds of the next generation coming behind our people right now. So I got teenage daughters right now. My youngest one, I'm fighting for them. You know what I mean? Because they seeing that as well, And you gotta let them know that ain't norm. That's the abnorm. You know what I mean? That ain't converted. That's perverted. I don't give a damn what anybody say. Teacher, preacher, politician, statistician, anybody else. So with that, next call or comment.
Why are you so hard on nonprofits?
I'm not hard on the nonprofits. If you got a nonprofit, run your nonprofit. But don't be a part of the Grant Chase Task Force. That's the problem. If once they fund you, they run you. Have your own nonprofit. Go out and look, man, this brother and sister got a nonprofit right here. They ain't going out chasing no grants. They chasing the real grants, man. They ain't chasing no grants. I got a nonprofit called State of the City, okay? It ain't a nonprofit like a nonprofit. But if I'm able to fund my radio show for 10 years, 11 years, right, then you should be able to run your nonprofit. That's all. But you don't let the philanthropic community run you and fund you, and you don't let Jack Young and the rest of them downtown fund you and run you, man. That's the bottom line. So that's for any of our people. Once they fund you, they run you. That's all. So you don't want to be a slave, get what they say, get free or die trying. All right? Next comment. Non-profit. In this city, this is the non-profit haven in Baltimore City. Used to be a time, one non-profits around here like this. They came into Baltimore City, man, and it's become a haven, and they suck off the blood of our people. Like, our people can't breathe because of all these non-profits around here. Our people cannot breathe. They can't get free because these non-profits sucking the life and the blood out of our people, men, women, and children, man. So, next comment.
That is true.
Yes, I know that's true. Straight ones and the gay ones. Used to be a time. What was that group they had before Chase Brexton? They had another gay clinic. What was the name of it? And the gays took the money, took the resources. They gave it to black folk. They put Anthony McCarthy in there. Anytime they put Anthony McCarthy in there, you know it's doomed. You know what I mean? Next thing you know, that clinic was gone. They don't even know the name of it no more. And they took Chase Brexton, and they moved over right there on Charles Street, right? They shut that clinic down, man. I can't think of the name. They shut that goddamn clinic down. They got that Ryan One AIDS money, that hope, what do you call it, hope for money, and ain't get them gays, black gays, nothing, man. You know what I mean? So that's how they run it. Next question, comment.
Who do you like for the 7th Congressional District?
I like Reba Hawkins. I like Sister Reba. We need somebody fresh, somebody new. I don't give a damn what somebody talking about. We don't need no new. No, you do need some new faces, man. Didn't they replace Barbara Boxer with a new face? Kamala Harris, you know what I mean? Can't we get a woman in there? You know what I mean? And I mean a straight black woman, okay? I ain't nothing talking about no gender bender. Can we, you know what I mean? I ain't talking about no thespian lesbian. Can we get a real black woman, right? In the seat down there, man. You don't need to go back to quite easy, you don't fool me. And I don't know where the women are with the Me Too movement and the Time's Up movement for them to even offer up Kweisi Mfume and they ain't saying a damn thing, right? You see the hypocrisy in that? They know the history of Kweisi Mfume. If they brought up John Conyers and Bill Cosby from the 70s, how come they ain't saying nothing about Kweisi Mfume from the 90s and 2000s? Probably right up to the time I came on the air too. You know what I mean? All right? That's the shameful part. So unless you see that Me Too and Time's Up movement, just another scam, man. If they ain't saying nothing about Kweisi right here in Maryland, in Baltimore, they ain't saying nothing about Elijah Cummings. And everybody know about Elijah Cummings. In the street, they know about Elijah Cummings. And in the suites, they know about Elijah Cummings. Or Jamal Bryant. So at any time any of them want to have a conversation, we can discuss it. Time, place, and space. You name it, I'll be there. Okay? Next comment.
What's going to happen to Mondawmin Mall?
They're going to probably eventually, with the white boy, they trying to get a bailout over there, man. The mall's in trouble. A lot of people ain't going to malls
Big
no
trouble.
more. So the mall's in trouble. I think General Growth filed bankruptcy. They had it. I think I think they sold it to some Arabs or somebody since then. Arabs bring a lot of cash money. You know what I mean? So, and if you look at who most of the business owners are inside of the Mondawmin Mall right now, most of them are Arabs and East Indians, right? Ain't no black-owned businesses in Mondawmin, man. So that's one thing that's happening with Mondawmin right now. So we need some, and that's going to be an opportunity zone. So you saw those new apartments they built across the street. So they're gonna do. There's a lot of building grade going on in that whole area out there, man. So they're gonna try to move as many people up out of there as they can. You see them white women up there jogging with pit bulls and everything now, man, all around Deer Park Lake Drive. 5 years ago, you wouldn't have seen that, right? Right? So Mike
That
is
means they
moving
live
further
close.
up.
That means they live close.
University
by
of
them,
Baltimore. You see that move Kirk Smoke said, talking about merging University of Baltimore with Coppin? They gonna make a move on them, man. All that talk about your HBCUs. You see who going on HBCUs now, man? Arabs and East Indians at them colleges now, right? And Wilson and them know, the president and Morgan, why? They bringing cash, man. They bringing cash money when they come. They ain't trying to get no grants or nothing like that. They bringing cash from their governments, man. So that's where you want diversity, they get ready to give it to you. You run around pushing that diversity bull, they get ready to show you some real diversity on your HBCUs, man. Most of them that was run by the Jews, they going to bring them Arabs and East Indians, and they go your diversity. You want a STEM program? The Indians going to be in a STEM program. And that's the Arabs going to be in a STEM program. You might be in a them program, but they're going to be the ones in them programs. You gonna see, it's already taking place right before your eyes because you wanted diversity. You got tricked into that trick bag. Talking about diversity. When they say diversity, it ain't diversity for us. It's gonna be adversity. But they tricked our people in talking about diversity. Yeah, that's what them gays be saying. We want diversity, right? Yeah, okay. Diversity is divestment from the black community and give it to somebody else. That's code language right there. But you want diversity. You don't hear nobody else talking that diversity bull. But they get that to our people at them HBCUs to say that. Next comment.
Your shows bashing Under Armour have placed the brand in crisis. I know you're happy now.
Another slush fund, Under Armour. Another slush fund. And he stepped down, right?
He did?
Yeah, University of Maryland. Slush fund. That's all they was doing, man. Running slush funds. Money that's supposed to be coming into the community, they redirecting it over to Under Armour, man. So, again, that's what Baltimore's been, a criminal enterprise. So I'm happy to see it come out, man. Because all it is for us is vindication, man. We've been telling you they run the criminal enterprise. Y'all just didn't know how deep the criminal enterprise run, man. So I'm happy that it's coming out. And if Under Armour cared about Baltimore, how come they don't make no shoes, uniforms, or nothing over here in this country, man? Right? Everything is made in Bangladesh, Vietnam, and China. They ain't even making some gloves in the city, man. So with all they make, uniforms and sneaks and cleats. You mean they can't make nothing in Baltimore? See, if you had a real man, if I was the man, I'd say, look, man, Kevin Plank, if y'all want to do business in Baltimore City, y'all got to bring some manufacturing back to the city, man. If y'all that land y'all got over there and y'all can't, they got warehouses everywhere around Baltimore City. And they still making stuff in China and Bangladesh and Vietnam, man. That's the criminal part. So we got about maybe 5-10 more minutes, then we got to begin to wrap up. So a few more comments, then we got to begin to wrap up. You got any more comments up there, my brother?
Yes.
All right, we'll take a few more comments, then we got to begin to wrap up. But that's criminal what Under Armour's doing, man. Criminal what Hopkins is doing. Criminal what the University of Maryland is doing. We got all these conditions existing in Baltimore City with all these hospitals, man. That's an indictment on those hospitals. So I know we got to wrap up. We got another show coming, right? Yeah, I got to make sure we get them on. I ain't going to be like a show before. It's cigars and bars. What they call cigars and bars. Cigars and boys, right? Yeah, come in here an hour late talk about cigars, right? Yeah, okay. So come in here, cigars. Yeah, okay, all right. I don't know what they drinking. I'm just joking. Come in here an hour late talk about cigars. I mean, no, man, what y'all smoking? Come in here an hour late. I love you.
All right. Have you seen where Kansas City is voting to remove Martin Luther King's name from the street?
Kansas City, Missouri, the show me state, right?
Is Baltimore next?
Could be, but I don't know. Baltimore City, they going to put a new Catholic school down there at 200 Martin Luther King Boulevard. So they already got the name of it. That open space right there. They breaking ground on it right there. So it's right there where I think
It's just a field right there.
It's a field right there.
Okay.
They got the sign up right there.
Okay.
But you see, they was gonna name it after Archbishop or Archdeceiver William Keeler. But the report came out last year talking about all the sexual abuse in Pennsylvania, and Keeler was the person who was over the archdiocese in Pennsylvania, in Harrisburg particularly, right? Where they was sleeping with young boys and young girls. They say one preacher married the girl so he could sleep with her, right? And Keeler covered it up. Then they sent Keeler down to Baltimore. So once this report came out, they said they cannot name a Catholic school. They had the signs. I saw the signs and everything, right? I do deliveries. I was at one of the warehouse. They had the signs made up and everything with his name on it, right? So they said we had to scrap all that, but they still wanted to open a school. So they're going to put a black woman's name on there, Mary Mother Lang. They're going to name it after her. So they had a big ceremony. I saw the article in the Daily Record 2 weeks ago. So they broke ground on it, and they're going to build a new Catholic school right there. Now, I don't know if it's going to be for black folk or if it's going to be for Hispanics or for the new black folk that's going to be moving into them new apartments, them new luxury apartments they building down there by Poe Homes. And them people in Poe Homes will not be going to that Catholic school, okay? So, and you ain't got to worry about no squeegee boys being out there then, all right? So, but that's what they're getting ready to do. So, one or two more, and then we got to wrap up.
All right, last one. Did you see the footage where the woman destroyed her car and hit another trying to get in line at Popeyes?
Yeah, but you'll see it in a few weeks of Black Friday. You know what I mean? It's the same thing, man. It's instant gratification. It's a new toy, a new trinket, and we got to have it. You know what I mean? And that's what they do, man. So, you'll see it in a few weeks, and, it'll be fights and this and that because everybody want to be the first one, right? So this is what you'll see. It's like I said, like road rage, And it's just instant gratification how the people are socially engineered through the propaganda. So you'll see it getting in line for the Jordans or whatever it might be that they'll be bringing out next. So it'll be the next, on to the next, as they say. So one more, and then we got to wrap up. You got any more comments up there?
Trying to find something that's different. Most things
most of it's the
same lines.
Yeah, we'll let him know next week if we're going to do a demonstration with Sean Suiter's wife. I'm going to try to see if I can get an interview with her and with the attorney on this Saturday show, man. But it's a sad, damn shame what they've tried to do with Sean Suiter, and now killing her husband again, as his wife has said. So how many times are they going to character assassinate the man or try to kill the man now? A dead man tells no tales. He's not here to speak for himself. So that's what they're engaging in. That's the sad part. But when the real black police officers going to stand up in this city, man? That's the sad part. Really is. So any more comments?
Some people saying that Sean Suiter was murdered.
Right. We know he was murdered. All you could do, grab David Bominka, the white boy. That's all you had to do was grab him, get his phone, give him a lie detector, a polygraph test him for paraffin or gunshot residue, man. That's all you had to do. But the fact they didn't do it in the first 24, 48 hours, they gave him a chance to bury the evidence and get rid of the evidence, man. If I know that, Stevie Wonder could see through that, man. Who benefits? That's the first. Then if he's going to testify, who else was tied to that case that he would have been testifying against other than Jenkins and Guillen? It would have been Gladstone, man. So you look at Gladstone, get Gladstone phone and track phone and burner, anything else Keith Gladstone had, man. Gladstone just took the plea this year when they could have had Gladstone back in 2017. Now, if I know that, don't tell me Jane Miller don't know that, man. Don't tell me these other reporters don't know that information. Oh, that's public information. And if they didn't grab Bo Minka's phone, why didn't they grab Bo Minka's phone? Since they said he didn't have a department issue radio. Who sent him out without a radio? That means they had to know that they were getting ready to pull off a hit and they didn't want nothing transmitted on that radio. That's what you call a stand down, okay? Stand down orders were in place, okay? So you had to ask, was it D'Souza who was running patrol at that time? Was it Palmieri? Who was it? And that's what you don't hear the media asking questions about. To Davis or to TJ Smith, who they want to bring back here and say that little trifling dog want to run for mayor of the city of Baltimore with all that blood on his hands, man. That's the sad part. And y'all running around here talking about having debate with him. I wish you would bring me to a debate with him. He ran out the room once I opened up my mouth because it would be no comfortable. He wouldn't feel comfortable at all around me. Okay? You bring him. For some of you that want to bring, you bring him. And see when you don't run out the room once I start talking about it. Okay? I'm just scratching the surface right now. I got much more I can tell him about Sean Suiter that he don't think I know, that I do know. And I'll bring the wife of Sean Suiter to the debate. I bet you wouldn't stay in there with her. Okay? So stop trying to make these zeros heroes when all they trying to do is count De Niro's and get rich off of you. That's all they trying to do, man. Okay? So with that, got to begin to wrap up just due to the time. Make room for the next show coming up in here, man. Because I'm not cigars and sports. No, I'm just joking. I've been your host, Brother Muhammad. Thank all of you for tuning in. Thank you for staying as long as you stayed tonight. We came in an hour late, but I thank all of you that stayed up. And we'll podcast the show on State of the City, on, of course, Radio on Fire. So please support Radio on Fire. Their cash app is $ Radio on Fire, all one word, $ Radio on Fire. My cash app is $ SOT